Assalamu alaikum, you're watching Healthwise and I'm Dr. Tahira Shahid. 1.5 year lockdown after another lockdown. Every day there's a new restriction, a new imposition. You can't go there, businesses are shutting down. There is so much you can do and so much that you cannot do. You can't go to school, you can't travel and so much more. What is the impact of all of this lockdown? All these restrictions, they're just causing a lot of frustration in us, a lot of hopelessness, a lot of despair. We think the world has ended, the world is going to end, there is no future, there's no tomorrow. People are going into so much of more negativity than usual, so much more mental illness, so much more lack of motivation, lack of the drive to be able to do anything. That is why we invited onto our studios today a very inspirational lady, a lady who has proved otherwise, who has been locked down in her wheelchair, locked down in her own body for almost her entire life, but has defied against it. She has proved that any sort of restriction is never a limitation. You know, you can make them wings for yourself. It's not her. She's actually made her wheels her wings, and she's made every passing day an opportunity. So we welcome to our studio, Ma'am Tayyaba Arshi. Ma'am Tayyaba Arshi, thank you so much for coming over. You have been with a multinational before, and now also you're with another leading multinational, and you've been in very, leading key positions. We want to hear your story so that people know that not everybody is born with a golden spoon, with a silver spoon in their mouth. Not everybody has all sorts of opportunity. So what was your journey like? How did it start? Do you come from a very affluent background, or were you like blessed with something extra, or what was it that you faced all along?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for having me. Well, you have lots of questions and I have a single liner answer that my life was not that easy. It took me like several years to prove that I can do something, and I am from you people and I am not someone alien. Well, starting from my education, I have completed my business management studies from Commerce University. I have completed my management sciences MBA successfully, and I had my picture on the newspaper as well. Then I started my career with NGO, and there I they gave me the opportunity to submit some proposal on leadership management for the women, and I've been selected for USA.
Oh, and so you traveled there?
Yeah, I traveled to USA for the first time, and that was my first thing that gave me confidence and actually
told me, it actually taught you that you can actually dare to dream. Because a lot of people just lose confidence. Their self-esteem is shattered. And at what age were you confined to the wheelchair? What actually led to you being confined to the wheelchair?
I was 5 years old when doctor told my parents that I cannot be able to walk. That was so astonishing for me at that time. I had to hide my tears from my family. I was 5 years old, but I can hear that words from a doctor. That was due to doctor's negligence, not because of my parents' sin, as people used to say at that time.
That is such an important point that you have raised. That even now, even with COVID and people actually contracting COVID and dying of COVID, there's this tendency where people start judging people and start saying it's some sort of punishment from God. That's not true. These are all tests and trials and tribulations from God. And it was not something that your parents had done, but it was actually just anybody's negligence, a medical negligence. It had to happen. It was destiny. It happened. But the fact that how you faced it is what's more important. And from even at the age of 5, you were actually hiding your tears not to cause depression to your parents. So then how did the journey go on from there?
My father used to say me that I am like motivator for him, because I encourage him for the work he does. I want to highlight few points here that in our society, in Pakistan usually, our parents are so busy in their lives. Our fathers are busy in earning and struggling for the livelihood. They have to feed 7 family members and many more.
Right.
And our mothers are usually busy in pleasing their in-laws, and they neglect their children. I do not had friends. I do not had my good khala, pupo, chacha, who can give me suggestions, advices, or who could hear my stories.
So who did you share all this with this? And you're right about that, that in spite of the fact that we keep complaining against so many things, we're so busy in our own lives, right? We're so occupied by that, whether it's livelihood, whether it's all this family structure that we are so proud of, whereas we're actually ignoring the people who need our attention the most, and those are our children. And even during lockdown, this has happened because people are, you know, so stressed out, so there's so much of uncertainty. They don't know how they're going to, you know, earn for tomorrow, and there's a lot of friction amongst people, and it starts getting vented out on kids. So with this loneliness and with, you know, people coming and taking, you know, like pity on you, as you mentioned once, that they used to come and they used to take pity on you, how did you manage not to become a victim? How did you say, no, I'm going to prove otherwise?
Yeah, well, Allah taught me that you have to do something. Do not be a victim. People do not like crying faces. I used to cry at that time. I was not that confident. But there was no one who could actually guide me at that time. We do not have any good rehabilitation centers that could teach us.
Right.
I think there is a gap there, that whenever any person loses some ability, they suddenly become useless. I was the fourth daughter, and who wants the fourth daughter in the family? I was the unwanted child. Like usually people used to say, we want a son, and you
And you were right.
So,
but you proved to be a
yeah.
blessing in disguise. So now that I know that
Yeah.
your father passed away.
My father passed away, but he was the good sport for me. He actually never said me to, like, do not. He said actually to do complete your studies and
So he
focus
supported
on
you with your education.
with my
and he didn't say that
education.
you're useless and there's no
Yeah.
need to study, because over here, everybody, all the girls, they're considered like, okay, they're a burden, they don't need to study, all they have to do is take care of the house later.
They only have to marry.
Yeah.
Complete your studies till matric and just get married. This is the culture everywhere in my family as well. So when I was completing my studies, my cousins were getting married. When I was getting good job opportunity, my cousins were having children.
Right.
So now I am at a good position, and I am here in television to tell.
And you know,
and
this
telling
is
my
why we
stories.
invited you today, is because during lockdown, a lot of people, you know, dropped out of schools and colleges, and they've made their aim that, okay, that's fine, the schools are closed, the colleges are closed, we don't need to study, we don't have to study, let's just get married and have kids, and that's about it. So, you know, you have to learn that, yes, marriage and kids and all of that is important, but it's also very important to acquire an education, acquire some kind of skill where you're independent, where you're self-dependent, and where you're prepared not only for some adversity, for some adverse times, if God forbid they fall upon you, but also you're better at, you know, taking care of your kids, of your society, and as a national as well, right, as a national citizen as well. And when you talk about the challenges you faced in school, because nowadays all the schools are closed and all the students are home and they don't know what to do, and they're forever glued to the screen, and they're not going out because there's no parks and everything. You couldn't go out to parks or anything. So how did you utilize that time? Were you on the screen all the time, or were you building yourself, learning, studying, exploring?
Yeah, currently, well, I am working in a multinational organization, so I'm working 9 to 5. And besides that, I also wanted to do some entrepreneur type thing, because I completed my MBA in marketing.
So you applied all that you studied?
I applied all that. I used my resources, I used my network, I used my brain, I used that internet technology.
So you made this time. She utilized this lockdown not to just waste her time and just watch something, you know, some lousy thing on the screen. In fact, she actually started something. There's a business that you've started. How did you start this business, and how did you become an entrepreneur, and how would you guide everybody? How do they go about it? What is it about, first of all?
Actually, I just launched my clothing brand business. Last year was quite depressing for everyone. I had to sit at home, like, after so many years of struggle, after traveling to so many countries, and after going to office like every day. Someone has to sit home for 24 hours. Like, this was so difficult for anyone.
Right.
So I just had a plan to do something, so to utilize my time, because office work was quite not that like that.
Not engaging during that time. Nothing was working pretty much.
Nothing was working. So I wanted to launch my brand. So I talked to my tailors. They were quite sportive. They they wanted me to do something for again.
You know why this is
empower-
important? This is important because there's so many women out there who, in spite of lockdown or no lockdown, they're confined to their homes. They can't move out due to pressure issues, permission issues, family issues, or they have to take care of their children. And they don't realize that they have so much of potential in them. There's so much they can do. Apparently, you couldn't even move out, and yet you managed to do all those
Yeah,
things.
you have to mobilize all the resources available at that time. I have to call my tailor, I have to call my marketing manager to manage my social media for marketing purpose, and that's how I started the business.
So
of
where did you
clothing
learn
brand.
all this from? So this is what your MBA helped you, or you started, researching different things on YouTube, because people just watch songs on YouTube or just some entertainment, and they don't go on for these kind of training courses. Are there any sort of trainings available? Some ideas, so different things that people can do.
My education do help me, but I had very good inspirational people around me. My bosses were very helping and caring. They had taught me a lot during my career, and I have traveled abroad as well. And they actually, that was the first time I go to mall there and had some shopping stuff there. That was the thing that encourages me that yeah, I can do anything, and using your network and using your resources, you just have to talk, you just have to connect with people.
Yes, this is so important. Connecting the dots is so important. Thinking that, this is not the end of the world. I can do it. For example, she was in a wheelchair. People used to make fun of her, would actually say that, you're going to be a burden on your family. And today she's actually supporting her family, right? And you've proved it opposite. And that is like so inspirational. And I'm saying this because I met Tayyaba in the same capacity, working in a multinational, and she was leading this wonderful program there, a program of inclusion. And what would you say to all these people who, start bullying others who are somehow, have some sort of disability, and they start looking down upon them, and even those who do have a disability or don't have, they start going into self-pity, and they start blaming the world, blaming the system. There's no end to blaming the system.
Yeah.
So how do you actually come out of this, this situation, and how do you include more people in it?
The difficult part was the kids, because the kids used to stare you in the
Okay,
school,
stare at you.
and no parents never ever told them that do not stare. You have to care the person around you. You have to teach your children, your kids, when they are in school or when they are in any public places, that there might be many kids with different abilities around you. They might be your sibling, they might be your cousin, they might be your friend in your classroom. So you have to take care of them. We need to tell our children about this.
Yes, and especially even with the COVID cases and COVID patients coming positive, do you know how in the beginning what was happening is, if somebody was positive, God forbid, they were being looked down upon and differentiated and saying, oh my God, he's positive, let's tape him up, let's, imprison him or something. It's not like that. It's a disease, it's a disability that comes from God, and there are ways to recover. And the best way to recover from something like Tayyaba did was to, prove herself against it. You built yourself against it, you studied, she traveled. Imagine, she couldn't have never thought that she's going to travel. So we have to dare to dream against our dreams. So all these students who have all these lame excuses these days, that we don't have this, we don't have that, we can't go here, we can't do that, so we cannot excel in life, need to learn from you that not only can they excel in their studies, acquire a very nice job, have many more suggestions at work, but also become an entrepreneur. So this entrepreneurship journey that's going on right now, what other ideas can you give to all those girls out there? Clothing line, what else can they do? Like, for example, cook from home, and
there are so many ideas that they can work on. We need marketing managers, we need social media experts. We need content writers. They can write anything, they can charge for those writing.
Exactly.
writers.
I think there's a lot of online portals these days where you can actually submit all these things and
Yes.
start earning, and these YouTube channels where if you promote and you produce some good content, some good useful content, whatever you can teach, for instance, whatever,
You can teach students online. You
Yeah.
can tell them, you can give them awareness about the disability rights even.
Right.
Yeah.
So about disability and about inclusion and about everything else, how would you, what do you want to tell everybody around over here, especially because we're not a very inclusive society. We're not very kind towards people different from us. So what would be your message to them? And what would be your message to everybody locked down right now as to how they can utilize this time and make it an opportunity for them?
I got blank.
No, that's right. So Tayyiba, you are a living inspiration, and the way you've inspired everybody is so amazing and it's so awesome. And now with your clothing line and more people wearing your clothes and you seeing them wear your clothes and move around. So actually what you've done is you've given yourself all, like if you couldn't go to a certain place, you've sent them. So wherever you're going to see people wearing your clothes or carrying your message around, it's actually you going there.
Yeah.
So this is something that all our students need to learn as we are going through a pandemic. We don't know when it's going to end. There's so much of uncertainty. We shouldn't wait for that ideal tomorrow, that when tomorrow comes, I'm going to do this. When tomorrow comes, I'm going to be all right. Whatever you have to do, you have to do it today, right? So what would be your message to the masses? What are you going to tell them that, okay, I'm Tayyiba, I did this, I defied this, and I want you to do it as well?
Yeah, let me tell you one thing. My brother-in-law, he spotted me here in the business when I just came up with an idea. Mom, I want to launch the clothing brand. Everyone was just, why? Like, you have a good job opportunity. Why are you doing this? This is so hectic and that and this and that. My brother-in-law came here and he said, you can do that, and this is a really good opportunity. In any time in the future, when you do not have any job, you must have any side business that can support you.
This is so right.
Yeah.
This is the key point. This is what we need to take home, that you should always have some backup plan, because you don't know when your business is shut down. You don't know when there's going to be a lockdown. Today it's a pandemic. A few years ago it was an earthquake. It could be a war. It could be any situation. So you need to be prepared.
Like, to support you financially, you have to build up yourself. You have to stand on your
own feet.
Yeah.
So building up yourself financially, for that you need a sound education. Use this time to actually, do any sort of degree, online course, whatsoever online, or learn or acquire some kind of skill, or to become an entrepreneur like yourself, develop any sort of business. It could be anything, right? Cooking at home, selling these, a lot of people need lunch boxes. It could be online classes. For example, if you're good at Quran, you could start teaching children Quran. You could start teaching children any sort of talent that you have, and the sky is the limit, right? Isn't it?
Definitely.
So when you were working, did you face any sort of, discrimination at work as well?
No, actually I worked in multinational. I find gaps in government sectors, maybe national ones, but not in international ones. They actually encourage diversity. They never discriminate. They never ask me the biased question, what is your age, why are you here, and
yes, are you married or not, do you have kids or not? That's a very common question.
Will you be able to do this job? Will you be able to go upstairs? Like these things. They have elevators, they have enough, all the sports. Actually, there is a term, reasonable accommodation, that I learned in my training during in Thailand for SDGs training, and they taught me about reasonable accommodation, and this is the actually important thing to be utilized here. This is
so reasonable accommodation and accommodating the other person and not embarrassing the other person. So what we learned from Tayyiba today is dare to defy your disability and dare to dream against the impossible, whether there's a lockdown or not. Yes.
Okay, sorry. Let me explain reasonable accommodation. Reasonable accommodation is basically changes in your environment that can help any person to work efficiently. And it is not only for the person with disabilities, it can be for anyone, for any person, for any woman that is expecting. She can use like elevating heighted tables. So these are reasonable accommodation.
So the ramp at entrances, lifts and elevators, different stations for nursing mothers.
So these are the things that any company can provide to its employees, and basically in Pakistan, multinational are providing this reasonable accommodation to individuals, and this does not charge any expensive.
Thank you so much, Tayyiba, for joining us today. You have truly been an inspiration, and I hope you are as inspired as I am from Tayyiba, and let's learn to dream. Thank you so much for watching. Allah Hafiz.